Hey everyone, it's me Gavin, and welcome back to MyXP. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the one and only, the legendary Chrono Trigger. Game for Super Nintendo that when it first came out just made complete waves amongst everybody who was into the RPG genre, and even players that never even experienced an RPG before. This game is in a league of its own. Chrono Trigger to me was the game that when I first picked it up, I couldn't believe the quality of the title. I just couldn't believe that there was something this good. And I know a lot of people really hype up the game, and a lot of people really just gush about this game, like I will as well. And it's for a reason. Chrono Trigger did something at its time that no other RPG had done. It went a lot of places that a lot of other games never went, and the whole time travel aspect with multiple different endings and all kinds of different sorts of side quests and everything to do in the game, it was just crazy how good this was and how revolutionary it was for the RPG scene. Now, the very first time that I played Chrono Trigger was at a time when I was still renting games from a video store. I had just actually played Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IV, and then I was just looking for another RPG to play, and I noticed that this game was always rented out alongside of other games like Secret of Mana and, you know, all of those classic RPGs. So initially, I said, you know what, this game's got to be good if it's always gone. So I hadn't made a reservation for the game, and I had to wait, I believe it was like 2 weeks or something before the game finally came back into the store, and I was finally able to play it. So when I first played the game, I just remember getting that very first opening scene where, you know, Chrono's in bed, his mother comes in, opens up the curtains, and she's like, come on, get out of bed, sleepyhead, and you get up and you go to, you know, this fair. So I was like, wow, the setting of this is really different from other RPGs. You know, usually there's some sorts of like combat or some conflict or something at the very beginning of the game, but this one just opened completely like peaceful, and, you know, it was very lighthearted. There was no like frantic, hectic like battles or anything like that going on. So it was a bit odd to see at that time, but, you know, at this time, again, I was also just new to RPGs, and it was something that I never really experienced, so I didn't think much of it. So I remember, you know, getting to that point, and then all of a sudden you get into the fair, and the whole scene happens with Marl and the gate. So at that time, I was like, okay, like, this is really weird. And then it throws you into that conflict, right? It's save the girl. But yeah, it was crazy to actually experience this RPG for the first time, and then when I was much younger. So playing a video game, and I was like, you know what, this RPG is just crazy how good it is. The music was phenomenal, the story of it was awesome, and it went a lot of places, like I said, that other RPGs didn't go at that time. It was the first of its kind. And I remember just playing that game as much as I possibly could whenever I was able to finally get my hands on it on the weekend, and just gushing about it to all of my friends. And I remember that whenever my friends would come over and hang out for the weekend, if it was like summertime or whatever, we'd usually just set up a tent in the backyard, and I'd run an extension cable out of the back window, and we'd just run it into the tent. I'd bring out like this 13-inch like black and white TV with my Super Nintendo, and we'd all just like, you know, lay around the tent and just play the game. And it was, you know, Chrono Trigger and, like, you know, other games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, just a lot of like different games. But I remember Chrono Trigger specifically at that time because I had a couple of other friends that were really into RPG games, and it was really cool to share that experience with them and see what they thought of it. So I remember when I was actually playing that game one night in that tent, I had just gotten up to the final area, and I was about to beat the final boss, and then all of a sudden it just starts raining, and there's thunder and lightning, and I was like, oh no, I gotta finish this game. So I remember we had to end up like turning off the console, bringing everything inside, making sure we covered up the console and everything with our sleeping bags, and we brought everything into the house, went into my room, set everything back up, and then, you know, I started back from the last save. But I remember, like, after I ended up beating the final boss, just all of my friends and myself just being, like, cheering and just like, oh man, this is awesome. And we just got the standard ending where, you know, it's Chrono, Marl, and you're still back at the fair or whatnot. But it was really cool, like I said, to actually share that experience with my friends. So, Chrono Trigger, I remember I played through it. I didn't realize there was multiple endings at first until, you know, I went back and played it over, and I got the new game plus mode unlocked. I was like, okay, now there's gates appearing in other areas or points that you can interact with that weren't initially there in the original game. So I remember just playing through it and getting these different endings and not really having like a whole lot of like different imagery or anything, but there were like a few random scenes that you'd see and you'd be like, okay, like this is how the game would end had I have beaten the game at this point. Until I ended up getting the game a few years afterwards, part of the Final Fantasy Chronicles collection on PlayStation 1. And when I started playing that one, it opened with this beautiful, like, anime intro, and I was like, oh wow, like, they really did an awesome job with this. And there were so many, like, other anime, like, cutscenes into the game, and a lot of the endings and everything also had these anime cutscenes, so it was really nice to see that new, like, life breathe into the game, but it was a really big detractor to see how much the load times affected the PlayStation release. So, upon getting the PlayStation release, I remember being very frustrated with it at a lot of times when I was just like, you know, I just want to fight, I just want to do this battle. I don't want to have to wait another, you know, minute before it finally like loads and it catches up, and it was just like such a slog to play that game on the PS1. But regardless, I still suffered through it, and I ended up getting like all the endings on the PlayStation 1 version. And just, it's been a game that's been with me throughout the years. And I remember when I got that game for PlayStation 1, a lot of my other friends at that time that hadn't really played the game, and new friends that I had made since that point, started getting into Chrono Trigger and RPGs, and they were just mind blown by, you know, the quality of this game. It's a short game, but it's so worthwhile for anybody who hasn't played an RPG or anybody who's just looking for a fantastic story with a lot of different twists and turns that you really won't expect if you don't already know them, of course. But Chrono Trigger is a must-play RPG, and anybody that I talk to that's interested in RPGs, it always comes up in conversation. It's always an RPG that I go to and recommend. The music, the battle, the story, the characters, absolutely everything about this game is perfection. Chrono Trigger, I remember, again, it was one of the things that another one of my friends obsessed over. Same friend I talked about in previous episodes, Wayne. I remember he when he first played the game, he was just completely in awe. He ended up taking all of his characters and trying to get them to max level in a single playthrough, and he ended up doing like multiple new game pluses, just going back and making sure that he had every single piece of gear. He maxed out every single one of his character's stats with all of the tabs that he had collected throughout the game. Just complete overkill, and it's the definition of a completed like master file. It was crazy to see like all like double star stats, and it was just nuts. Every character at level 99, every piece of equipment, like either, you know, there's certain equipment pieces that you can only get one piece for a playthrough, and he had every character equipped with that one piece. So it was nuts to see the amount of commitment that he put into that game. Because, you know, as much as I love the game, I don't think I have it in me to go to that extent with it. But I did end up playing through the game multiple times and, you know, getting close to that level, I guess, but not quite, you know, maxed out. And I had cousins, again, that also loved the game. They all went out and sought out like the original copy of the cartridge and ended up spending like hundreds of dollars in order to get like a brand new copy, essentially, like still plastic wrapped. And I know they go for a lot more nowadays, but it was just, it's crazy to see like how much of an impact that one game can have on an RPG genre and as and a generation in its own right. So I think it goes without saying that, you know, Chrono Trigger is legendary, and it's that way for a reason. It's the best game, or best RPG at least, in existence, and I don't think there's many people that would argue that, and if they do argue it, then they're probably referencing other RPGs that came after Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Trigger was the very first one. It was the pioneer for the RPG genre, and it introduced so many other things that not only RPG games ended up implementing or using in their games, but a whole like slew of different genres took ideas from Chrono Trigger. And a lot of people that I know that are in the gaming industry and everything also reference Chrono Trigger as being the one RPG that really changed their outlook on things. Chrono Trigger, hands down, is the best game ever. So that's my little story with Chrono Trigger. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and if you guys really like my videos, please give it a like, please subscribe, leave a comment in the comments below. If you want to support my channel and you just want to help out, you can always become a patron on Patreon. I have that set up as well. All the links for that will be in the slide at the end of this, and yeah, thank you guys very much for viewing. I can't wait to hear about your comments and your own stories with Chrono Triggers as well. So, with that said, I will see you guys for the next one. Take care.